Chelsea perspective, of course, the talk has been over the last 48 hours that they've had productive talks with Xabi Alonso. I don't know what that entails. Iraola is still in the mix. Arne Slot, we'll talk about that a little bit later on with Liverpool and what Mo Salah has come out and said. So in that state, like, where are we with Chelsea and who's going to be in charge next season?
Bearing in mind Xabi Alonso, as you know, we cover La Liga every week. He took a big hit with that Real Madrid job. Got out just in time, so he wasn't unscathed, but yeah, he got out, you know, with a little bit of damage. He can't afford that to happen again. So if it is to be Chelsea for him and not Liverpool, he's got to get the assurances. But that's all the assurances every manager gets. And when you get in there, it changes. And that's the problem. But what we do know is whatever this club are doing isn't working.
No.
Right? And
how easy is it to fix, Craig?
Well, you have to bring in a coach and you have to trust him.
Right.
You can't bring somebody in and then you have half a dozen people with their fingers in the pie trying to make decisions that are affecting the on-field. You have to let the Guardiolas and the Klopps of this world, who have been super successful in England, but they've basically controlled the football club within reason. That has to happen, but I don't think that will happen. And why wouldn't he be a Chelsea player that's looking elsewhere?
Right.
And all the talk, you know, Cucurella said this. Enzo Fernandez said he might want to live in Madrid one day. Why not? Why wouldn't, unless, if I was a player at that club and I was at the peak of my career, as some of these players are, some of them a bit younger, and I was looking at them saying, they don't know what they're doing upstairs. And they're just going to keep making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and therefore we won't be challenging. Okay, we're at an FA Cup final today, but we won't be challenging for the Premier League, really. We won't be challenging for the Champions League. Why wouldn't a World Cup winner or a Cole Palmer or a João Pedro say, do you know what? I think I can go somewhere else and better myself. And that's the issue that Chelsea have. So they have to make, I think, a big statement with the appointment of a new manager.
And who will that be?
I think it'll be Iraola.
Right.
I think all this Alonso stuff, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a smokescreen, but it just feels like he's going to be going to Liverpool.
But have you seen what this? Sorry to butt in, but have you seen the reports from Liverpool today about
the data? But see, when I hear the data thing, it feels like that's almost Arne Slot using that as a justification for how well he's doing.
But that's not him saying that. This is the Richard Hugheses and FS, the Fenway Sports Group that own the club, are saying the data's telling us. I mean, this is bonkers, isn't it?
But you know how that will be received, though, by the fan base, by people within football. That will be received terribly because they know ultimately they're not happy with what they're seeing on the pitch. And if we want to talk about data, one key bit of data is they've lost 19 games of football this season.
Yep.
Like, how do you say that's fine as long as like their XG is going up? You know, the 19 games is too much. Fans were leaving early yesterday against Aston Villa, and as they enter this next season, are they going to be comfortable with Arne Slot as manager? The likelihood is absolutely not.
They're losing faith in the type of football that's being played as well. You know, they were spoiled.
It was interesting what you were saying, Jermaine, during the game. You were like, none of these players want to be playing this system that Chelsea was set up to play. What did you mean by that exactly?
Exactly. So you look at the type of football they were playing. Every single one of them. Cole Palmer. You look at João Pedro. You look at the attacking players, especially. They don't want to be sitting deep in their own half, defending like a half-court press. You don't want to do that. Those type of players need to be in the attacking areas, picking up the ball, pressing the centre halves, pressing the fullbacks, winning the ball, turning the ball over in the final third, where their real creativity can really kick in.
Yeah.
That's where the magic happens. Not in your own half. You can't do anything from your own half. That's what the defenders are for. That's what your holding centre midfield players are for. That's what Enzo Fernandez when he's playing in the 6, or Caicedo when he's playing in the 6 or the 8. That's what they're there to do. That's their role. That's their job.
Yeah.
And then they give it to the creative players, the Cole Palmers and you know, all of those other players that should have turned up today but didn't.
For sure, Craig said it. Like what you've said there, Craig has already said that, because he said Cole Palmer doesn't want to have to be doubling up with Malo Gusto for 90 minutes.
Right.
But that ends up being what he's doing. And I think to make it worse from a Chelsea perspective, especially that first half, is Cole Palmer then wins the ball back and he looks forward and he's going to play it to Malo Gusto further up the field. That is the exact opposite of what you want it to be. You want to be able to feed those attackers in those dangerous areas so they can do something. But instead, as was the case in that first half with Chelsea, here comes Cucurella down the left, here comes Malo Gusto down the right, who are good players. But if you want to be creative and score tons of goals and win games, it's not going to be that, is it?
Did you see how, and I think he's one of the best talented front men in English football, João Pedro, but either Chelsea won the ball back in those areas, you know, right back in the full-back area, and he had nobody within 30 yards of him when
Yeah.
they played it up to him. Or I was watching from our commentary position, he was actually 15, 20 yards inside the defensive half when Chelsea were defending. So when they won the ball,
There's no outlet.
there was absolutely nothing and nowhere to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
You then have to travel 70 yards.
Yeah, it was for me. I thought in some ways it was Chelsea played with that style in a manner of a team who are far below where they should be as a football club, because they were thinking in the match, like I've been guilty of this for the teams I've played for. They looked like they spent so much time getting ready for what City were going to do that they disregarded what they were going to do themselves in terms of how to attack.
Right.
So whenever they won the ball back, or say Sanchez had the ball, he's looking up. Here's a high ball to João Pedro. João, wrestle 3 or 4 players if you can. Maybe it'll drop to one of ours and maybe we can do something. That's a side that's far better than that. So many good footballers being basically told, like, we're going to focus on just make Cole, make sure you come back.
Yeah.
Make sure you back. You know, this guy, make sure you
Pack
come
out
back.
the midfield.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's make it hard for them.
Yeah.
Yes, you can make it hard for them, but you also need to try and win the game at some point, and Chelsea don't have that.
And